This is a response to Largo64's video, A Short Rant, and I'll also be making some comments about Cristopher7's response to that same video. For those of you who haven't watched Largo's video, he talked about how his devout Christian cousin keeps on sending him proselytizing material. And the most recent she sent was an email about an NBC poll that said 86% of the people polled believed in God, and that his cousin's logic was that numbers of these sort should therefore convince Largo that there is a God, and presumably that the Judeo-Christian Bible is his word. Anyway, Largo emailed his cousin back, and he pointed out all the logical flaws of her so-called argument, and he added his request that she please stop sending these things, that he wasn't interested, that he was where she was many years ago, but that he's changed, he's read, he's learned, so please stop trying. And Largo closed his video by saying that he hopes that she stops sending this stuff, and he asked for people's thoughts. So here are my thoughts. All right, hello Largo, my name is Todd, I'm a new subscriber to your channel, and I actually don't mind at all when theists attempt to proselytize to me. And when I say theists, of course I mean Christians, given that they're the ones who do the majority of the proselytizing here in America. And I say don't mind because when I try to put myself in the shoes of Christians who actually believe their premises are true, that is, they believe that heaven and hell and judgment day really exist in the real world, I think it's only natural for such people to proselytize. I would even go so far as to say that given a devout Christian's premises, proselytizing is the morally correct thing to do. For the moment, I'm going to put aside all the lack of evidence for the Christian's premises, and even what I would describe as all the glaring flaws of the Christian's arguments. Instead, I'm just trying to put myself in the position of someone who truly believes that everyone who does not accept Jesus Christ as their Savior is going to suffer eternal torment. Now, if that were the case, I would find it vitally important to try to save non-believers from this horrible fate, this horrible eternal fate. Now, this leads to the tangent issue of why so many Christians don't proselytize. Because after all, if you had good reason to believe that an asteroid was hurtling towards your hometown and destruction was imminent, I would think you'd do everything in your power to get that information out there so that people could save their lives, and that you'd feel horribly guilty if you didn't spread that information or proselytize it, so to speak. So here's this much worse fate that's supposedly awaiting every non-Christian, yet most Christians don't try to spread this life-saving warning, this eternally life-saving warning. And I think the reason for that is that a great number of Christians really aren't too sure that Christianity's doctrines actually correspond with the real world. But they just believe in belief, as Daniel Dennett would say. That is, they believe it's good to have faith, but they're not too sure, either not too sure the dogma is actually true, or they just like the general idea of being Christian and really don't delve too deeply into the specifics of their faith. And maybe they don't want to delve too deeply because that would force them to reconcile the irrational aspects of Christianity with the rational aspects of their brains. But like I said, this is a tangent issue, so I'll drop it. For this video, I'm just going to focus on true believers. So for those who have a deep conviction that there is a place called hell and Jesus is the only escape route, I would think for such people it would be unconscionable not to proselytize. If I were one of those people, at a bare minimum, I would certainly want all my loved ones to be saved. So for believers who have this frame of mind, I personally would never tell them that I'm not interested in hearing them tell me about Jesus. That would be like if if I had a child who swallowed poison and I had the antidote. And I knew that poison was going to cause severe pain and even death. And my child said he was not interested in the antidote, or something like, well, I used to think I needed an antidote, but well, now I'm too educated for that. If it were my perspective that the child really swallowed poison and I really had the antidote, I would feel completely compelled to save him, even if I had to force the antidote down his throat. And if he resents me or is annoyed at me or even hates me for the moment, well, so be it. I'll take short-term hostility when there's so much at stake. On a somewhat similar theme, I don't mind people who are part of the anti-smoking campaign. those who distribute images of what a smoker's lungs look like, or put out TV clips, people who have to talk through holes in their throat because of cancer and so on. Now, these people are proselytizing in a way, but at the same time, I think of them as providing a genuine public service, because I think it is beneficial for people to know how their current behavior may result in a future that involves great pain and suffering and an untimely death. And this is especially true for those in their teen and preteen years, those who have yet to reach good judgment in that type of area, and who are at the age where people typically start smoking. So smokers and would-be smokers can claim to be not interested in anti-smoking information, but their lack of interest is not a convincing reason for anti-smoking proselytizers to stop informing them of the consequences of their actions. Now, of course, when it comes to things like the consequences of smoking or the consequences of swallowing poison, well, there's excellent real-life evidence to back up the claims that genuine harm will result from these things. Something that I know we both see as lacking in the world of organized religion. But again, for the moment, I'm not looking at their evidence or lack of evidence. I'm just saying that when I see things from the devout theist perspective, I never get annoyed with their attempts to get me to live in accordance with what they perceive to be God's will and God's path to eternal salvation. Now, before I get to how I typically respond to proselytizers, I just want to mention something that Cristopher7 said in his video response to Largo's video. Cristopher7 mentioned telling his son that he's got to pick his audience when it comes to religious discussions, that most people here in America are religious and have these deep, well, even if fragile, beliefs, and it's preferable to let them lead when it comes to whether or not to discuss your beliefs or lack of. And I do fully agree, and I do tell my children the same thing. And Largo, I know you mentioned in your video that your cousin really doesn't want in-depth discussion about her beliefs. But my feeling is that when it comes to people who are proselytizing to me, I mean, that's like a big sign around their necks that say, please question my beliefs. Please ask me why I think my knowledge of the divine is accurate. And that's an opportunity that, well, for the most part, that I welcome. As for the specifics on how I respond to proselytizers, well, I'm sure you already have your methods, but I'll just share mine if you're interested. But I'm going to run out of time before I finish my thoughts, so I'm just going to stop now, continue in part 2, and hope to see you there.